Welcome to the Geeky Grandma with an Encouraging Nudge podcast. Hi, my name is Jill McCarthy from Central New York State, and this is our 54th podcast. That number 54. This is a special solo podcast, and actually it's a take number 2 because I sat down and had an inspiration, got all excited, and even made a long enough clip that it could be a podcast, sent it to my editor 2, 3, 4 times, and there was no sound. Oh my goodness. Well, that happens with my fancy dancy microphone that my son helped me pick out. It comes with another box that has doodads and lights and gadgets on it, and that has to turn on separate. Apparently, I didn't notice. I didn't notice the little blips on my screen that go from green to yellow to red. I didn't notice. I was in a creative mood. And we lost that episode. So I'm not sure as though I know I can't duplicate it because I rambled from one subject to another. And this may go a whole totally different way today. But you just have to trust that maybe that message wasn't meant for right now, the one I wrote talked the first time. And maybe this is the lesson that needs to come on here today. So I'm just going to trust that all is well, that the right people are listening, and perhaps this is the message you needed to hear today. When I have a log where I write down the guest's name. I didn't start it early on, but I have at this later point, so I can keep track of who's been a guest and, what was the name of their talk and that kind of thing. And it helps me to keep an organized to know, who's at the just filling out the questionnaire stage and who's at the pre-podcast and who's up for recording. And it just helps me keep a little more organized. Besides, I just love making spreadsheets. And I kept changing who was going to be on for podcast 54. I'd get somebody down and it'd slip around, and I'd get someone else down and it'd slip around. And I knew in my heart that 54 is my favorite number. And maybe secretly I was wishing that it was mine, and eventually it became mine. I could have planned it that way in the first place, but that might have been too easy. I'm just going to ramble today. So sit back. I hope you have something cool to drink. If you like something hot, that's okay, but I like cool to drink. And just listen to me ramble, if you would, please. I'm going to get my swallow. I have to keep my throat moistened. So if you ever see the picture of me getting a drink of water, that's trying to be healthy and hydrated, at least in that one's face. Okay, now, why would the number 54 be my favorite number? Any of you boomers out there know Car 54, where are you? Yes, that used to be a television show. Or part of a show anyway. I don't know if that was the name, but the real reason why I like 54 is our school, which was a local, rural, little community, 2 communities combined together school system. And our girls were especially famous for their archery abilities. We had a very special coach. Her name was Mary Ellis Dady. Don't ever call her Mary Ellis, but she's got a beautiful, beautiful signature. And she never married. You could say she was kind of married to the school and her job. Very, very professional lady. Very much wanted us to be ladies as well as athletes, and just really pillar of the community. Worked for many, many years, and in the hearts of many people. I wouldn't want to get on her cross side, but teenage girls sometimes did. So anyway, back to archery. She started the archery program, I would assume, at our school. And we would do 20 yards, 30 yards, and 40 yards. And yards, so 20 yards would be 60 feet. And if you've ever seen a target, you probably have seen the yellow or the gold in the middle. Then it goes to red, blue, black, and white. And each one of them is a different number. If you get the gold, your arrow in the gold, it was worth 9 points. They worked down by odd numbers: 9, 7, 5, 3, and 1. And in archery, you get 6 arrows, and 6 arrows is called an end. Well, if you get all 6 of your arrows in that gold center, it's called a perfect end. 6 arrows, 9 points each. It's worth 54. Okay, now that's a lot of work to get around to. Why couldn't you just say it, But there's a story behind it, and I like to share this story, and it's going to be one of those kind of days. 54 is what you get for the perfect end. Well, I was not your star athlete. Okay. I went out for lots of teams. I ended up being the scorekeeper or, something of that timer, something of that effect in many cases. I was on I could play the intramural, and I did make some of the other teams, but I was kind of like on the second string in a lot of them. But I still went and I had fun, and I was part of the whole team going to an event or having it at our school. And I gave it my best, and some places it was better than others. But it was funny because archery just came very naturally to me. And it's for kind of a strange reason. I don't know that you can see me on your screen, but my arms kind of go hyperextended at the elbow. And so when I put my arm up, I have a perfectly flat surface that nothing juts out. Oh, it looks weird, but I've had it my whole life, so I didn't even know it went that way for many, many years. And in archery, you would put a little guard, an arm guard, on the lower part of your arm, just above your wrist, and about 2/3 of the way up to your elbow. And you put it there because your bow, let's say it was a 20-pound bow, how much pressure it is or how much it takes to pull it back. And when you're a new archer and you don't know exactly how to stand and how to hold everything, quite often that string would snap into your arm. We called it a string snap. Yeah, a string snap. That's kind of hard to say 3 times fast. And it would produce a little welt on your arm. And well, since you're standing pretty much in the same position every time, though, you could get several welts in very close proximity. And, it would take a few days for them to go down. And if you came back to archery the next day and added a few more layers, it was mighty uncomfortable. And you kind of had to learn to change something quickly, or you were going to be hurting for certain. And that's why we would use that little guard. And the guard would take the shock of most of that. But the funny thing with my goofy arm, I got up there, my arm was automatically out the way. I didn't have to learn how to keep it out of the way. It came that way. So it gave me a chance to get a head start over some of my classmates who were also doing it. They went through more of the string snap stage. So it gave me that little hop ahead, and it allowed my skills in archery to on the beginning end of my archery career to grow a little faster. And it was, like I said, it was a very important season at our school. We were ranked either first or second in the state many, many times. And one year we did a mail-in tournament. I guess that's kind of like oh, like a virtual summit. You may not be there in person, but you can send your results. Well, anyway, we did this national high schools mail-in tournament, and I ended up ranking 25th in the nation, which was, yeah, that's kind of one of my claim to fames. Even my brothers like to quote that one to people sometimes. I did have some classmates that got ahead of me by that point. That was in my junior or senior year. But anyway, our school was very, very proud of it. We had another district in our state that gave us a run for our money many times, and we kind of used to say that's because they had an archery um, company right in their hometown that was supplying the best of the best equipment. But you can't go sour grapes. This coach, Mariella Stady, she taught us a lot about sportsmanship over the years. But sometimes when they ask you what's something that nobody knows about you, well, one of the things about me was that I was ranked 25th in the nation at one point in time. And talk about that gold in the middle, and getting 6 arrows in there was worth a 54 on your score sheet. And the specialty about that was we were able to get a plaque if we 12 different times, didn't even have to be on the same day, if we got all 6 arrows in that center gold. And I worked very, very, very hard, and I got 11 of those perfect ends over my high school career. And I'm proud about that. Even getting one of those is quite an accomplishment. You see people with it. Sometimes it looks so easy, but Miss Dady taught us exactly where we put our hand, and so that we'd have the best hold on the string and to get the best scores. But one of the things about archery is when you're shooting, one of the parts of it is the most important part is the follow through. Now, my arrows used to be, I believe, 26 inches long, and you measure how long it is in your bow and all of this good stuff. And the arrow's got a point on the front, and then it's got the fletching or the feathers on the back end. And if you have to keep your arm still, not only when you first release it, but until that whole long arrow gets that full distance and gets past the end of where the bow is. Because if your arm goes wavy, then your arrow will go crooked. And believe me, we've had more than enough hunts for arrows out in the weeds. We were a country school, and there were plenty of weeds behind our archery field. But so and that's kind of really true. I kind of have used that theme many times. I've had a poster on my wall for a long time here in my office where I had that archery target I had drawn, and I used it at one of my first retreats. That we talk about goal setting many times, and that's a good term. We can call it a mission or a purpose, whatever you want to call it. But you not only need to focus on it, you need to have the right training so you know how to do whatever the mechanics of your skill is, but you also have to stay focused on it till you get all the way through the release, so that your release is clean. So you stay on, you keep looking until that arrow literally hits the target. And so it's not even just as long as it gets out of the bow. You keep your whole body, your whole demeanor, your whole focus until it hits that target. And it's a very skilled sport. And I kind of chuckle sometimes when I watch people on TV who are using archery, and I noticed Miss Stady wouldn't have been very happy with the way they were holding their bow. But I guess, in all fairness, a men's bow uh, has a little different. They have a different kind of a release mechanism, and I guess they have to hold it a little differently. And I'm not up on that, and I really haven't been up on archery for many years. But um, it's interesting, and it's interesting that occasionally even some of the cartoony kids shows have a girl archer in it. I can picture them, but I can't remember the name. So if you know the name of the couple of archer girls, the Hunger Games, and there was another one where the daughter has to pick a husband, and she beats the other guys from the other countries because she's a better archer. Um, so I just kind of say hooray for the sport not too many people know much about. But that was very much a part of me. My parents had gotten me a very simple bow at home, and I put a little um, sticker on it that said 54, the kind of stickers that you punch with the label maker. And I put that up there, and put one up there on my bow every time that I got one of those perfect ends. And, sometimes we don't hit quite the goal we thought for, but, I had lots of practice. I had lots of fun. Getting 11 perfect ends is still a pretty good accomplishment, and a lot of fun, and a special place in my heart for that point in my life. Um, I had started this podcast when I got an item in the mail, and that made me want to sit down and to talk. And that was the episode that didn't make it. And I guess you could say that was kind of about a goal too. Um, I remember back, I couldn't tell you, but it's more than 5 years back. I saw a little video clip online of a gal who was a podcaster, and one of her guests had sent her a package ahead of time of their meeting for the recording, and her package was unopened, and she decided to video herself opening her package from one of her guests. And she's all excited. Well, when I was little, I loved to get packages in the mail. I was that kid that saved all the Kool-Aid wrappers and all of the box tops, and I sent them in, and I got a free Kool-Aid pitcher, and I got a camera for collecting paper towel wrappers. That was the best camera I ever got. It took 24 paper towel wrappers. And, I used to have fun, and I lived in the country and nobody was real close. And I'd get so excited when I got a package in the mail. So here is this gal who was a podcaster getting things from her guests. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So, and I have received some from my guests. Guests, don't worry, I'm not asking for it. When they come, it's wonderful. And when they don't, I'm glad for your company. So I'm not promoting anything here. But one of my previous guests, Vicky Mizell, was an author, which many of my guests are authors, sent me a copy of her book. And she told me that she was going to send it because she asked for my address. So I remembered seeing that other gal podcaster opening hers on camera. So I brought it in here. I came in, I didn't open it. That's really hard not to do, but I brought it in here to my production corner of the room, and I was talking about it online, and I opened it for the camera, and guess that was the part that I lost. So I can't re-implement that. So you're going to have to use a little bit of imagination. But I saw that piece. I saw how the podcaster had a chance to learn a little more about their guests. I've listened to webinars and summits and cassette tapes and VHS and CDs and DVD ROMs and audiobooks on speakers about personal development for over 50 years. And the thought as a podcaster that I got to meet some of these people who are the guest speakers. And now I even get a chance to be one of the guest speakers. It's an exciting possibility. In watching that gal open the present, that made it, I'm very tactile. I've told you that many times. I'm also very visual, but more so tactile. And seeing that picture of her opening the box put that picture in my mind. My head is kind of like a slideshow, and it put that idea, that goal in my head. And when Vicky sent me that package and I took the picture of it online, I was I was bringing that thought, that image, that mission full circle in my own head. And it's really important. If you have a vision, if you have that heart's desire, do you have a picture of it in your head? Okay, I saw a picture of another girl. That was close enough for me to get it in my head. Just like the arrow in the perfect end. You have to really do a lot of practice till you get that point. It may look like simple. Oh, I'll just stand up at the line, I'll point it in, and boom, I'll be all set. Well, guess what? It doesn't quite work like that. Believe me, it took lots and lots and lots of practice. I can't remember whether it was 5 or 6 ends that made a round. I think it was 5. And then you'd get a score for those, and to have a tournament, you did a round at 20 yards, a round at 30 yards, and a round at 40 yards. 20 yards isn't too bad, and as anybody probably can be getting so they at least hit the target at 20 yards. 30 yards is a little more challenging. You have to be a little finer on your follow through. But 40 yards, that's getting pretty tough. And my husband has gone bow hunting over the years. Some of the time, I wouldn't say that's his main way of going deer hunting, but it is one of the ways he's tried over the years. And when he talked about it's 150 yards away, that is huge. That's a humongous distance. Yes, a male bow is probably, or a hunting bow, I should say, is probably more like 40 or 45 pounds. I don't even know for sure, but it takes a lot more strength to pull it. And obviously, if it's a hunting arrow, the end is built for going into an animal, so it's a lot sharper and a lot more dangerous. But it's a very massive thing to even hit a deer, let alone to hit it in a space that would bring the deer down. And it's also hard really to put an animal down, because even though if you hit it, if it isn't in the right place, the animal might go off somewhere and you might not find them, and that would not be a good thing. That's why a responsible hunter would continue to follow, and you have to make sure that you've got enough daylight still around when you even are thinking about finding a deer. So, all right, I don't want to get off on hunting because that's not my topic. So finding one of those images to put in your head, to building the skill, whether it's taking the chance on, here I've been speaking. I got a certificate in this morning's email that said, that was for the speaking event that I did earlier in this week in New York City. And then they gave me a little sticker that now I can put on my website or my different places where I have logos, and it said certified speaker. And I said, wow, that feels really cool. And it was a good feeling. I know maybe in school you got certificates all the time that they didn't end up making. The first one or two felt great, but when you got to the 27th, maybe they don't feel so great anymore. But I just listened to a podcast before getting on here, and it was called Celebrate Everything. So, we have to celebrate things, and that puts some chemicals going in our head to help us to say that's a good thing to do, and I need to do that again in the future. But I also want to tell you that sometimes when you move forward in your life and things, you are going towards those goals, you are building those skills, doors are opening. It doesn't mean everything in your life is going to be rosy and perfect. Yeah, it may mean more things will and more doors will open, but sometimes when we go forward, the people that at one time we were very close in our life, they may not still be in your circle anymore. And that's hard to handle, especially if you're doing really good and something went really forward and you want to celebrate, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, why is somebody angry at me? Why are they pulling away? Well, that's a hard life lesson, but I always loved the email that used to come around. It was the earlier version of memes that we used to send in emails. It said, some people are in our lives for a reason. Some people are in our lives for a season. And some people are in our lives for a lifetime. As we grow and change, think about it. Think about you in high school. Think about you in college, your dating years, going through weddings and baby showers and all that good stuff, and getting your kids in school and getting the kids through school and the kids' proms and the kids' college and the kids' weddings. Well, you're growing and changing. Your family life is growing and changing, but so are your friends' lives. Maybe you're not super close to your high school friends anymore. Some people I know have stayed close to college friends their entire lives. If you live in a tight-knit, small community, you may know everything about everybody. And sometimes that can pump against you. But what I'm saying is there may be a group of people even that get jealous of your advancement. Chances are they just have a different gift. You know what? I am not a gardener. And my garden goes just the length of, we made a ramp to get into our house when our mothers weren't able to do the steps very well anymore. And my garden is just the length of that ramp. And I have 2.5 plants in it. One is growing like crazy, but it doesn't get its flowers till later in the season. I'd also cut down a rose bush, pruned it down to nothing, and it is now getting very good leaves and is growing, but usually they flower in June, and it's already mid-July, and I've seen one bud on it. And another one I had clipped down, and not knowing whether they were annual or perennial or what they were, I'm finally starting to see some little nubbles with some leaves. I'm not a gardener. That isn't my thing. I have a friend from high school who's a phenomenal gardener, and she knows so much about it. We're just have different gifts. That's all. She's also a wonderful musician, especially on the piano. Now, I can play the piano, but I didn't do piano for her career. She did. We have different strengths. And, sometimes if you, go through any mental issues over the years, or if you have a breakdown, sometimes that's a point when you have to let go of old rules for your family and find out what's the new rules that are going to now fit for your adult life. And sometimes during that time, you need to find a surrogate family, somebody in your new world that will celebrate where you've worked very hard to come. Along with putting my certificate on my page today, I also put up a meme that somebody else put, and it was a pig rolling in the dust and the dirt. And it had some things. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to make a mess. It's okay to have a bad day. And I put a little line on it and said, yeah, I just published this after I published that thing that I did was a good job, but to remind me, hey, it's not always going to be one of those fantastic days. And even 5 minutes after you get done with a talk, you might end up in a bad argument. You don't really know. I had the right arm for archery, and I have the right finger coordination to erase one pixel at a time in a picture. But you know what? If I use even a spoon trying to get the food from my plate to my mouth, I can drop more than anybody could imagine. Okay? So these are the arm might have been special for one thing or for one skill, but it may not be special for something else. And it's all part of the package. And I guess this one I want you to say is have realistic expectations for yourself. Yes, celebrate when something goes good. If you have a coach, that's one of the things they'll say, even if it's a small thing, to celebrate it. But it's also know that there will be days that things don't go so great. And there will be days that people that once were in your life aren't in it anymore. Well, for whatever the reason. But then there may be somebody that you're still hanging on tight and they've moved on. Okay? You have to live in the moment, and you have to be true to yourself. And as you think about it, and as you grieve the loss, if somebody was in your life and now they're not, grieve it. Get angry, get mad, but process it, go through it, and then move on. And, uh, and then look, where am I going? Where do I want to be? Am I going where I want to go? Am I listening to my heart? Am I listening to my God? Am I listening to my beliefs? Am I going in the direction I want to go? And if you are, then you'll find new people on your path. You'll find new people that really are welcoming and celebrating who you are and who you've always been. And that's the way it goes. And I hope something in this message touched you. And I want to say, have a great day. Bye bye. See you in the funny papers. Bye bye for now.